How do you guys feel about club music? Is it going to have an impact on the industry that it had, or some things getting ready to change, and there's going to be a new wave or a new way to have impact on the culture through music, like through records like that?
Well, this is the thing. There's always going to be a little bit of a separation between what people consider when you're talking about the quote unquote hip hop purists. Those people who consider themselves, oh, I'm a hip hop fan, and what goes off in the club. Sometimes there's a little bit of crossover. Of course, like Kendrick Lamar is one of those artists that gets played regardless of what he puts out. But there are people who, they just don't, they're not big fans of DaBaby or Meg the Stallion, and those are artists that are always in the club. Now, the thing is, I will say about those artists is who was popping in the club 3 years ago and who's popping in the club now is a completely different group of people, because like your run is a lot shorter. You could have, like, what was the dude who remember Sheck West?
Yeah.
And how big that song, that song was huge. I don't know another Sheck West song.
He doesn't have one.
Not at all.
What was it? What was the guy designer?
That song got him on tour with
he was on tour with Travis Scott.
Travis Scott, yeah. That
one
song.
And even with that look, I don't know any other Sheck West songs. I mean, I know another Sheck West song, but it's not something that got played out when I was out working.
Designer had Panda, and after
Panda was, when he came back with that Timmy Turner the Timmy Turner joint, people was like, nah, we're good.
He fucked up when he let Kanye steal it from him and put it on his album.
Yeah, and when you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do my thing. All right, are you really? You got to understand, like, think about it when you watch, award shows, like when you say like the like a BET award show, the people who were there a year ago aren't guaranteed to be back there this year, or the people who were there 3 years ago definitely aren't guaranteed to be back again. They're definitely not performing. I think part of it is like, the clubs are open a little bit depending on what city you're in. In Florida, they just don't care. It's just full capacity.
Georgia,
we talked a little bit about what's going on in Houston, and and of course we're here in Indianapolis. I can't act like we're not out here a little bit too. So once again, seeing how the culture moves in real time, and things that we made fun of, or especially we were talking in the pre-show, we talk about the record "Throat Baby." Like, that song is trash, but I understand why it works. But okay, the thing is, I don't even know, I can't even remember who the artist is who's doing "Throat Baby." But thing is, like, this might be this could be the apex of his career, because after this, like, when he has a song that's not "Throat Baby," it could be a rap for him. Just like I feel like it was a rap for Sheck West. It was a rap for what's his name, who did Panda. Yeah. Well, it's harder to maintain your spot, quote unquote, in the club than people would have you to believe. Even like, honestly, the Migos songs that people play, or the songs by Offset, or the other Migos members, like they don't last like that. The only people who really last, like, who have been able to maintain summer to summer, have been DaBaby, Meg the Stallion, and to a lesser extent, I don't even say to a lesser extent, Cardi B. Everybody else is just
here's my question.
They're out here, they're struggling for scraps. Everybody else is struggling for scraps. Maybe Lil Baby.
Jump in, Long.
Here's my question, and because everything that you're speaking on right now is, I know we're going to talk, this whole thing stemmed from a conversation we had a few episodes back about what is the relevance of the club's impact in hip hop, and is club music even relevant in like what hip hop is? And I don't know. I could absolutely be completely wrong on this, but when I look at it and think about it, everything that you just described, Jay, I just think of pop music, because that's all it is. It's just popular music where people are rapping. So I'll just pose this question: like, what is the line of hip hop? Like, you're a part of hip hop culture, and or you are just a rapper that is rapping in that space, and what impact does the club really have on hip hop culture? Like truly?
I want Terry to answer that. Terry, what do you think about that question?
Well, I mean, technically, it's two different lanes. You have some artists that you would consider more hip hop than the others, that they definitely have crossover hits that may go in a club. But the club scene is more so for the radio type shit. I wouldn't necessarily say, I mean, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to a Take That Tuesday every other day of the week. Everybody's not lucky enough to have a Take That Tuesday that's going to run some other type of shit on top of some shit you might be familiar with from the radio.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, and we've even said this on the show before too, since all this quarantine shit hit, social media dictates what's hot. You know what I'm saying? As far as the music right now, getting peas in the cold. She said in the chat, TikTok. We all know TikTok. If you get a song on TikTok, that's a go. We had that conversation when Drake dropped that his last album that had the little TikTok dance to go to it, and how he capitalized on TikTok. TikTok is pretty much people's bread and butter right now. Like the whole Bust It challenge. That chick song has been out since last late summer, early fall, and is just now catching steam because of TikTok, and is viral. You ain't logging on to social media and not hearing that song at least once a day, and it's so fast you're only getting a blip of it, but that's what's dictating what's hot right now, since people can't go out and necessarily be in a club. So I think a lot of this shit is just going to translate from there over to the club,
social media to the club. But that still goes back. It doesn't really answer my question of the club's impact. You know what I mean? Like, is the club
hip-hop shit,
what plays in the club even hip hop?
Now, remember when we had this conversation about how, I don't remember what artist it was, but he was talking about how he feels like he's able to capitalize more now because he doesn't have the competition of cats that have to make club music. I don't remember what exact artist that was. But there was somebody that was kind of talking about that, and we were actually agreeing with more of the hip hop type shit. It's easier for that shit to win out right now because they don't have to compete with shit that's going off in the club necessarily. But you still have the radio. The radio still has to play something.
Yeah. Well, I do think that, what happens in the club does qualify as hip hop, because when we think about how hip hop got its start, it really was about playing music for the people, for them to dance and enjoy themselves. I think sometimes we get so into the lyrical miracle thing that we forget that hip hop, and it's always, and people say, oh, it's so materialistic now. Hip hop has always been an aspirational form of music. Even when you think about, and I know people got their issues with the Sugar Hill Gang, and how they got on, and Big Bang Hank and what he stole from Grandmaster Caz,
right.
But in those rhymes, he was talking about, I got a color TV so I can see the Knicks play basketball. He probably ain't had no color TV at the time. Just like a lot of rappers don't have the Mercedes Benz that they talk about, and they don't have the jewels that they talk about in these rhymes. It's really always been about people coming together and being in an environment where they can dance and party, smoke and drink. And, we've in a way kind of, we look at that aspect of hip hop as being not real hip hop, because we think, okay, if you over here, you smoking blunts and playing video games in the basement and you listening and you bobbing your head, that's hip hop. And you listen to the lyrical miracle shit, that's hip hop. All that shit that people are dancing to and enjoying themselves to in large spaces, that's not hip hop. Where really the essence of a lot of what we grew up at, before there was this real split between underground and mainstream hip hop, before they tried to commodify it as pop music, all of it was something for us to really enjoy ourselves in these large spaces.
But it is pop music though. It's pop music, though. I think
that's the part.
That's the part.
I know.
But say all of a sudden,
I know the difference.
Jay Electronica pops off as a pop artist, then all of a sudden people are going to be looking at him sort of funny. Just the same way. This was a big day in hip hop. The day that It Was Written and Stakes Is High came out. I feel like that was the day really there was a split between mainstream hip hop and what we consider to be underground. Okay, because if you went with Nas and he had If I Rule the World come out, that you were moving with the mainstream side. But if you went with De La,
here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that argument.
You were moving on the other end.
Here's the problem with that argument right now. You're not going to hear those songs at all in the club anymore. Since hip hop has become pop music, there is a distinct difference from what you might hear, what you're talking about, people getting together and having a good time from in the 90s, and the sound that is going on right now. It's completely different. And not everything that is not club music is lyrical miracle stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that too. You know what I mean? There's a whole wide variety of sounds. I think that, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but when I hear club music, I hear pop music. I do not hear hip hop. Every once in a while, we'll hear a crossover artist like Kendrick, or a crossover artist like Drake, or that has a little bit of both. But very rarely do I hear records that, and maybe this is the elitism coming out in me a little bit or something, but very rarely do I hear a track that I listen to and be like, I'll hear something and be like, oh, that sounds like a hip hop record. Like it wasn't made intentionally for the purpose of selling records. And
now I understand what you're saying as far as the difference. That was more what I was speaking on, like the difference that you were talking about. Because I mean, obviously you're gonna hear somebody that's hip hop in the club per se, or so to speak. And that's kind of what I was talking about with some people that you would consider hip hop that you'll still hear in the club. And with Nas, a lot of Nas shit don't go in the club like that. Not recently as not nowadays. There's no new shit that Nas puts out that gets played in the club unless you're going to a Take That Tuesday or a spot similar to that.
Well, he had that record with
the problem with
ASAP Ferg that went in the club.
Yeah, that's cool. That one will go. But a lot of the newer artists though like to separate themselves from being hip hop, and I think that's kind of the lane that I think Lone is talking about.
There's something else in there.
They're not saying that they're hip hop. They're just, I'm just a rapper, or don't even call me a rapper. It's always this weird kind of energy around them admitting that they're into hip hop or that they're even rappers. So I can kind of understand that.
It seems like music is being made for the intentional purpose of
being popular.
Yeah, exactly. And for getting clicks for getting this stuff. And it's not that hip hop artists don't want that. It's just that it comes from a different frame of mind. And it's like the elements of hip hop have, I don't want to say
I agree with that.
Changed or morphed or anything like that, but it's like there's this significant difference from a Kendrick Lamar record that is big in the club and a Megan Thee Stallion record that is big in the club.
Yeah.
What is there?
And it kind of it also goes to show that all these artists that we're talking about, how we're saying that they're not around for much longer than one song, is because there's no hip hop element in what the fuck they're doing at the end of the day. If you have a hip hop element in what you're doing, you have an actual love for this music rather than just trying to get on and make a quick buck and be stunting type shit.
Yeah, maybe Megan Thee Stallion was a bad
hip hop definitely has the stunt factor in it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's all about stunting. It's all about proving you the best.
It's always been that.
There's overlap. There's definitely overlap.
That's what it's about. But you have a lot of artists that are just knocking on the door, trying to get in, get that big hit, and they gone about their business.
Get out.
And that's the reason why.
Get out. Exactly.
That's the reason why a lot of the shit is watered down.
Now, I'm curious. Exactly. I mean, Jay Moore asked a question right before you jumped in. I'm curious what you guys think. He said, is there though?
Well, no, I mean, because, for all the criticism that I may have of Megan, she is,
or maybe not even Megan. Maybe not even Megan.
Maybe not
Let's
even
say
Megan, but okay.
Take Megan out the equation.
Or, you know what I mean?
Take Megan out the equation.
Because like I said, that's why I say there's no actual intentional pride in the craft with a lot of these rappers, because whether you're making things that are specifically going to work in the club or you're just really, on your backpacker hip hop shit. And I hate that term, but we're just for the sake of argument and to keep it moving.
By the way, thank you.
There has to be a certain level of pride in your craft. And like when I hear Megan's records, I was like, there's a certain level of pride in her craft. And I think that's why it works. When I mentioned those other people who were, one hitter quitters, it's like, okay, you had a sound, but you aren't really into hip hop. You're not really into this thing as a craft to try to create. You not mad at lightning in a bottle. And, and the thing is, there's always been artists to catch lightning in a bottle, where it be Cash Money and Marvelous or the Candyman or whoever. I'm taking it back to the 80s. There's been plenty of people who have just been able to get in and get out and, get whatever they can from the culture. But you have to have a certain level of pride in this craft and this thing that is hip hop. Like I said, my problem with Megan is that I feel like she's better than what she gives us, and she's one dimensional. It works for her right now. But it's almost like an NBA player who can dunk. And I'm like, okay, but you need to learn to play defense and to shoot from outside of 17 feet.
Right.
And I feel like just like Blake Griffin, I was like, I remember when I first saw Blake Griffin, I was like, man, when he learns to play basketball, he's going to be a bad motherfucker. And when Megan,
he was already bad.
And when Megan Thee Stallion really learns how to be more than what she, what is expected of her, then she's going to be a bad motherfucker. And that's just the way it is with hip hop a lot of times, because we have such a low expectation. That's kind of what Lone was talking about.
Yeah, don't be a young MC or a Tone Loc out here. Nobody talks about them.
Yeah. I don't know.
All. I guess they still getting publishing off them records though. Be clear.
Yeah, they still getting publishing.
To put a bow on it, I would definitely say that there's
so it's Vanilla Ice.
There's definitely, and I can't articulate it, but there's definitely some difference. There's some sort of difference between the different styles of music, and I've always equated to that mostly club and radio music is it's made for the intent of being radio or club music, and once something is intentionally made to be in the club and or radio, and maybe I'm mistaken with saying club, maybe radio or popular, I guess. Maybe something changes, and maybe that's just maybe that's my faulty perception and view.
I'm with Lone.
Maybe that's why people hate Drake, because Drake figured out the formula to be on the radio and in the club at the same time.
But I'm not even mad at Drake. I think
for 10 years.
Drake
ain't mad at him neither. Yeah, like but I feel where Lone is going. I 100% agree with where he's going. I understand actually what all y'all are saying. I get the points we've all said, but Lone is hitting on to something there in terms of intention and how records are made and what the purpose is in today's era. It's definitely changed. We could just leave it at that.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. And we invite you to join our hip hop community on Discord. Access it by going to newoldheads.com/community for talks on hip hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.